What is going on, my jacked gentlemen? Today I'm bringing you a simple little athletic lower body workout. I just chose to film it and record over the top. No real fancy editing, no cuts, just easy shit, having some fun with the boys while explaining my methods to help you find more enlightenment in your own training. So, why athletic and why lower body? Well, lower body because it's just in the schedule, this is lower body day, and I'm getting very happy with the size of my legs, so I think it's very important to start developing the athleticism qualities of them, as I really want to start doing martial arts again very soon, and my legs are honestly becoming quite heavy, and kicking high is becoming a lot harder than it used to be, so I definitely need to reclaim my athleticism, get my flexibility back where it used to be, and then I'll be kicking motherfuckers' heads in no time. I don't know if you saw that little maneuver right there. That was a little looked like something from the fucking Avengers or something. You know what I mean? I'm basically a stunt double at this point. So I started the day with some jumping lunges because it's just a fantastic exercise for developing explosivity from this kind of deep knee bend position. And I realized I've never actually used this exercise properly, as you can tell from that little stumble there. The way I used to do this exercise was kind of just hopping from leg to leg with really light weights for like as many reps as possible, and that's not the best idea with this exercise because it trains an entirely different quality, and this set I'm doing here is going very far from failure because I want to generate maximum velocity with every single rep, which means that I'm not going to failure because that's training an entirely different quality. And after a few explosive reps of that exercise, I do another exercise because a lot of my training, almost all of it, is done in giant sets and supersets because it's just so fucking time effective and it condenses the work so nicely. And if you structure the supersets well and you choose exercises that make sense, it's not going to impact your performance in the slightest, and it might actually enhance it in the long term. And as you can see, I'm gesturing here that this exercise doesn't feel right, you know what I mean? Sometimes it just doesn't hit the same, especially with hanging leg raises. I've noticed if you don't jam your back into a support, it just feels kind of floppy and not tight enough. So I decided just to cut the set short and do a time-tested exercise that is pretty much flawless, the weighted sit-up. It honestly is so consistent and just so solid that there's no reason you shouldn't do this to try and grow your abs. I said it was flawless. I am, of course, terribly mistaken because any exercise can become flawed if used incorrectly, and many people who do this exercise do it incorrectly by starting out with the weight in front of them, and it just makes it so much easier to just horse it with the rest of your body instead of focusing entirely on the abs. But as you can see, when you put the weight behind you, it's basically all abs. It's unbelievable because you're creating a much larger moment arm away from the center of mass, and makes the abs stretch much harder to keep working. And what I'm doing here is a drop set, basically a mechanical drop set. I'm using the same weight, but I'm keeping my arms above me because it changes the moment arm and the center of mass, and it makes it so much easier. So when you see people doing this kind of form with some heavy ass weight in their hands, just know that they're being pussies, essentially. Their weight is not impressive. It's just ego lifting, basically. I mean, the way I did it now, it was for a mechanical drop set, so I wasn't using heavy weight. I was using the exact same load I was using before, but just in a much easier position for leverage. So to continue this giant set, I decided to finish off with some neck work, because you can literally superset neck work with anything. It's so non-demanding. It takes so little like energy and time that you might as well do it, because training the neck is unbelievably chatty and you look so fucking masculine with a thick, girthy neck, you know what I mean? So here I've decided to opt for an exercise I've never tried before on the neck, which is like a twisting sort of motion, because I thought it might be more applicable to martial arts. I've never done this exercise before, as you can tell, because it looks fucked, and I'll be honest with you, it didn't feel right, so I'm not going to do this exercise again. That's what the neck harness is for, and attaching it to a cable or a band I think would really work well for this, but because of the way the resistance is, you know, kind of balanced, it's just it looks fucked, and it is basically. So a failed experiment, basically. You gotta learn, and you gotta do dumb shit to figure out what does and doesn't work, basically. And the quicker you embrace the dumb shit, the further you'll get, the quicker. So, and as for the shame aspect of it all, like, imagine someone saw me doing this in the gym. Who gives a shit, mate? This gym is full of nothing but DLs who don't know real intensity, and their opinions mean nothing to me. And no one's opinion really means anything to me at the gym, because I'm doing my own thing, and the results speak for themselves. Like, I'm definitely in the top 1% most jacked in my gym, no word of a lie. So I should probably join a different gym, a more serious one, right? Yes, you are right. The only reason I go to this gym is because it's close, it's convenient, it's got a lot of good equipment, and it's got a steam room and a sauna. I mean, there's so many reasons to go for this gym. So the fact that the crowd isn't serious is just not enough of a factor to make me stop coming here. So here we go, my second set of explosive jumping lunges, and as you can see, I'm not really that focused on the eccentric lowering portion of this exercise, because that's not the quality I'm trying to develop. I really want to develop explosive, dead stop strength from this deep knee bend position, which will be very effective in MMA. Trust me, you will be in this position a good amount of time when you're grappling and wrestling. So here's the second set of this giant set extravaganza. And yet again, I did weighted sit-ups, which is a goated ab exercise. And you may be wondering why I'm training abs on an athletic day, because apparently the best way to train your abs is through heavy compound movements. Huh! That's a very interesting theory, Professor, but I would have to ask you to explain to me then, when has isometric contractions ever been more effective than stretching and squeezing the muscle through a full range of motion? In essence, compound movements are not enough to train your abs for the purposes of actually growing them and making them look juicy and succulent and make them pop even when you're bulking. Normally, I really would never recommend mixing in a hypertrophy movement into a giant set along with something explosive or athletic, but in this case, I think it makes no sense not to, because even if it affects my performance, I don't give a fuck, you know? I'm not trying to train for the world record weighted sit-up or explosive jumping lunge, you know what I mean? I want to develop separate qualities at the same time, so obviously there's going to be some sacrifices, okay? It's not going to be the most optimal for either endeavor. However, for the purposes of MMA training, I think it actually makes perfect sense, because it is very endurant activity. I mean, obviously, this isn't that enduring. If I was training the quality of endurance, I would do it much more effectively than this. But it's good indirect work, if you know what I mean. So here we have another twisty idiocy that I didn't really learn my lesson from the last set because I tried to use a heavier weight now, and I would never ever recommend jumping into weights this like relatively heavy on an unfamiliar neck exercise, especially. So I just finish off here doing just a burnout set with the standard good old time-tested neck curl, which is actually a very effective neck movement for size and strength. So I think until I buy a neck harness, the neck flex, the only real good one on the market, which is quite expensive, obviously, I'm just gonna stick with neck curls because they're just the smoothest neck exercises that you can do with just like free weights alone, basically. So you might be wondering, Matt, how are you such a beast that you're going to be doing another explosive movement in one session? And I tell you, mate, it took years to work up to this. Like, don't try to replicate me because I'm a fucking unit. In reality, I've only done 2 sets of explosive lunges, very far from failure, so there's no reason not to do another explosive exercise. And this one is the hang clean, not the power clean, because lifting stuff off the floor isn't that relevant to MMA. And you might be able to tell, but I've never done this exercise before either. My form is very stiff and bodybuilder-like. It's not loosey-goosey and explosive as it should be. So this is why I've gone super far from failure. I only did a triple with 80 kilos, a little measly little 80 kilos. I could have probably done at least 12 reps with this, but I wanted to make my form nice and crisp and explosive before I start loading it heavily, because that's the quality I'm trying to train. If you see the pattern here, I'm using very specific exercises for specific qualities, and I'm not trying to kind of mash things all into one and do like hybrid shit that is very gimmicky at the end of the day, and it looks really cool on Instagram. I won't lie to you, but you know, just separate the qualities and train them intensely. So just as before, this is all done in a giant set fashion, and I'm doing abs again at the exact same place I was doing abs before, but this time I'm doing a different exercise, aka the Russian twist. My fellow countrymen invented this exercise, and I couldn't be more proud because there is nothing that hits quite the same when it comes to those like deep oblique muscles and the whole like twisty kind of motion. I think is very healthy for the spine if you load it safely and you progress gradually. So for the next entry of this giant set, I bring you hip flexor work, which I'm using by taking the cuffs that are supposed to be used for the chicks to do their little booty kicks, and I attach them to the cables. And you might be wondering why I'm being a selfish prick and using both sides of the station when I don't have to, when I can do it one at a time. And let me tell you, it's called efficiency because I can just do sets back to back and I don't have to keep like farting around, switching legs, and because nobody wants to say shit. If someone's bothering you at the gym in the way their equipment is being used, or whatever etiquette you think they're breaching, fucking go up and tell them. Don't complain about it on the internet. Don't try to start a movement like on TikTok or whatever. Just go up to them and say, "Excuse me, mate. What are you doing with that equipment? Yeah. Do you mind if I use it? While you know what I mean? It's called social interaction and being assertive, which obviously a lot of internet basement dwellers aren't very familiar with. So, as you can see, the hip flexors are being very maximally recruited in this movement, and it just feels incredible because with doing MMA and doing a lot of high kicks, it really does take a toll on your poor little hip flexors. So it's never a bad idea to reinforce them with exercises such as this, and it's just going to make your kicks more powerful because the strength potential will be there. Like with the first giant set, I did 2 rounds of these particular exercises, but for some flipping reason I can't find the footage, so just take my word that I did them, and then maybe I can sell you a nice workout program down the line somewhere. Wink wink. And because I'm still very, very, very fresh and very far from fatigue, I decided another explosive exercise would do the trick. This time to train the... I was attempting to do the Achilles tendon and kind of give it a little spring without much knee flexion, but I didn't like it. It didn't really hit right, and I don't think this is safe for your knees to jump with them locked. So, another failed experiment. God, how many is that just in one session alone? That's the 3rd one at this point, right? My goodness, don't listen to me. So instead of that, I decided just to do some sled sprints, and frankly, I think that's a much better choice because it's the most different from the other explosive qualities that I trained before. So I just loaded up a sled with some pretty light weight. It wasn't anything drastic, but again, that's not the quality I'm training, and I just wanted to move it as rapidly as possible because, quite frankly, I'm quite a slow sprinter, and I think this is a very good way to train that quality safely because of the way the resistance is positioned. You don't have the same kind of impact on the ground as you would with regular sprints. You know what I mean? You're not like slapping the pavement with your shoes. You're pushing into the sled. So I personally believe it's a more joint friendly alternative to maximum effort sprints. So that's it for the day. I only did 2 sets of the sprints, and quite frankly, I think it's enough. I love the 2 sets approach. I think I'm never going to go back to doing more than that because it allows you to do more exercises and allows you to push a lot harder on each set. It's been a pleasure, boys. See you in the next one.